Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I decided to make another video. This is a rare occasion because you're seeing me in a dress. Can I get all of me? What if I stand on this stool? Will you see all of me? This is where I die on camera. Anyways, wow, that was scary. I'm wearing a dress because it's finally starting to feel like spring and it is Easter weekend. Today is the Friday. I'm not religious. I don't know the names of the days. Is it Good Friday today? Pancake Friday? That's not a thing. So we're going to my parents' house to celebrate Easter, but also my mom's birthday and Ryan's birthday. And this dress is very springy, like literally because of the sleeves. But also, as much as I feel uncomfortable in dresses, which is why I don't wear them very much, I'm not saying that it will make Ryan and my mom happy that I'm wearing a dress, but like I am saying that this is a gift for their birthdays. But it also felt appropriate for this video, so here we are. I keep hitting my cello with the sleeve of the dress. Can you hear that? None of that was relevant to the theme of today's video, which is fantasy books to read in the spring. I like to read themed books throughout the year. I really like to match what I'm reading with the season. So I read a lot of very cold, wintry books in the winter. I read hot desert books in the summer. I read dark academia and horror in the fall. But spring is kind of a neglected season, I feel. Because like, what is spring about? I've chosen 7 books that I feel really reflect the ideals of spring and the vibes of spring and just evoke the feeling of spring in me. This is a purely subjective list. So if you hate all my recommendations, fine. I don't care. I won't cry. But for me, spring books are all kind of soft, lighter fantasy books. They often hinge on nature, especially flowers and growth and cottage core, and then also baking and sweet foods, which is why you can imagine that the themes of these books are all more happy, soft, light, fun, sunshine. Now don't get me wrong, they have their own depth to them. I'm not just picking out fluffy nonsense books. Overall, they evoke a lighter feeling, with the exception of one book in this list. I've divided this list almost in half, so I've got 4 books that are just vibes and 3 books that are canonically springtime books. Let's just start with the canon ones. That feels right. So first and foremost, you might have seen this coming because it has been making its rounds on Instagram, but it is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. Now this actually doesn't release until May this year, 2024, but I have an arc of it here and it's beautiful. This is a sweet sapphic romance about a young woman who lives on a tiny island where she is trained by her grandmother to be a honey witch. She loves her new life, but there is one downside, which is that no one can fall in love with the honey witch. I guess that's part of the magic. I'm not really sure. I haven't read the book yet. Of course, that's when we have our grumpy character, because this is also Grumpy X Sunshine. She doesn't believe in magic, but she shows up on the island and meets Marigold, the main character, and things happen. Sparks fly, I guess. This book is canonically set in the spring. The first line of the book, which is not finalized because this is an arc, but the first line is, "It is the spring of 1831. And that's in the past, and then the present day on this unfortunately hot spring day. So this is the spring. Anyways, if you're looking for a sweet cottagecore sapphic romance, this is out on May 14th, 2024. And the author, Sydney J. Shields, actually worked at an apiary, which is a bee farm, technically a bee farm. And that's just really cool. Next, we have a book that I have read, but did give only 3 stars because I didn't love it. And it's funny because the reasoning for why I didn't like it, I posted in my review on Instagram, and a lot of people said that the reasons I gave for not liking it made them want to read it. It's After the Forest by Kel Woods. This is a Hansel and Gretel, not retelling, but sort of imagined future, what's happening 20 or so years after the events of Hansel and Gretel. The reasons I personally didn't like it is because it was very fluffy and all vibes, no plot in my head. But again, this is a super cottagecore book. And if you want something witchy and a bit darker than The Honey Witch, this is definitely a book for you. This is set in April of 1650 in the real world. I believe it's either Austria or Germany. I could double check, but I won't. And a lot of the book is set around Walpurgis Night, which is a real event, a celebration in that part of Europe. And this book also starts with bees and honey. I gave this 3 stars overall, but it was fun. It just wasn't what I was looking for at the time. So it's still going on this list as a recommendation. And if you like witches and magic and fairy tale retellings and way too many boyfriends, go for it. Okay, the third book on the list is a little different from the others, but it is canonically springtime. And it's Lent by Jo Walton. This is a Christian mythology book, which I've decided to say now after my mythology retellings books video. This is actually a historical fiction, but it does weave in Christian mythology, which makes it a little magical, I guess. Now, I've already admitted I'm not an expert on Christianity, but this is set in April of 1492 and is about Lent, which is related to Easter somehow. Pancake Saturday. This is a fictional history of a real person. Girolamo Savonarola is a figure in French, Italian, and Christianity, and has visions of demons and prophecies and whatnot. This is a much darker book than the books I've recommended so far, but hey, Christianity always is. Those are the canonical ones. The vibes ones could also be canonically set in the spring. I just don't recall, and it's not clearly stated early on in the books. One of my absolute favorite books of last year was A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. Now you might be saying, Jules, you said these were fantasy books and this is a horror book. Technically correct. But if you haven't read T. Kingfisher before, her books get sort of divided into either fantasy or horror, but they're always both. The ones that are specifically horror are usually contemporary fiction and less fantastical and not set in alternate worlds, which is why they're horror. But this still has the whimsical fantasy elements that she is known for. And I own it twice. I have the broken binding edition here as well. And I'm going to be getting the paperback when it comes out as well. This is a story of an etymologist, which is a bug scientist, returning to her childhood home and finding that her mom is acting very weird. Her grandmother has passed away since the last time she was home, and her mom, who used to be a sort of free spirit, has really changed the house to be the way the uptight grandma wanted it in the past. And she's just talking to herself and being very bizarre. This book is about vultures and bugs and roses, which are all very spring things. I don't want to say too much more about this book because it's an incredible story. It is really spooky, but also incredibly fun and still has that fresh spring life vibe to it, and I highly recommend this. Even if you're not a horror girly, please give this a read and then read all of T. Kingfisher's other books. Okay, thanks. Next, we have Unnatural Magic by C.M. Wegener. I have no idea what season this is actually set in because I haven't read it yet, but from the blurb and from flipping through it, it's not winter, which could mean spring. I also don't know if this is sapphic or just female friendship, but either way, we have 2 POV characters, Anna, who is trying to become a magic user in a world where that is mostly designated to men. And we have a troll, a lady troll character, which is so rare in fantasy books, and I'm so excited about it, who is the leader of her clan's daughter, but is also investigating murders. Oh, dang it, this says in the snow. But you know what? I live in Canada, and there's snow outside right now, in the spring. So I'm including this on the list, even if I'm wrong about the season, because I feel like the vibes are there. And the cover's very pretty and has flowers on it. And I want to read it. Next, you knew this one was coming because, of course it was. It's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I feel like fae, in the traditional sense, are very spring-like to me as well. So I'm not talking about fae like A Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm talking about fae like little fairies. Like A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is not set in the spring. This is the story of Emily Wilde, who is a Cambridge professor who wants to be the first person to really study the fairies that live in the far north. She travels there, but she's not very good with people, so she has a hard time doing her research and getting everyone to open up with her. But then her academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, which is an insane name, shows up, and he's very charismatic, and they are competing now to study fairies. And they probably fall in love. I haven't read it. And again, we've got fairies and flowers, and I don't know what time of year this is actually set in, but it feels like it could be spring. October, damn it. Did I do no research for this video? Perhaps. So this is actually set in October throughout December, but that's why I said that this section of the video was all about vibes and not about canon seasons. It's staying in the video. I don't care. And we're on the last book, which I'm pretty sure is set in the summer, but at least that's closer to spring than the last two. And it's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This is one of my favorite franchises, properties, collections, and you've probably already read it or seen the Disney movie or a different version of the movie, or maybe even the ballet, one of my favorite ballets of all time. I'm a ballet girly, did you know that? A lot of the Alice in Wonderland stories feature growing things, flowers, gardens, summer and spring sports like croquet, animals, bugs, food, baked goods, sweet drinks. It's spring in a book. And even if you're already familiar with the stories of Alice, I would recommend reading the original collection because it's a beautiful book. And a lot of the older versions you can find come with the original illustrations, which are gorgeous. And I don't know, I just feel like it's a required reading, especially in the springtime. Well, there you have it. Those are 7 fantasy books to read in the springtime. I didn't do a great job vetting the list beforehand. Some of them are not set in spring, but I don't care. You should read them anyway. And shut up. Before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 2 days a week. Pancake Sunday.